I am here joined this morning by Sarah Corbett, who is the GIRFEC Policy Manager at the Children and Families Directorate at Scottish Government. Thank you for joining us. And in this Alliance Live, we will cover, first of all, some of the key points of the GIRFEC guidance refresh. So Sarah, now I will invite you to share your screen and give us a bit of an introduction.
Brilliant, thank you. So yes, I'm going to spend a few minutes talking about the GIRFEC refresh, and I'll start with why are we refreshing the GIRFEC materials. So the Children and Young People's Act Scotland 2014 supported GIRFEC implementation with the intention of putting it on a statutory footing, but some provisions of the Act relating to the named person service and information sharing were challenged in the Supreme Court in 2017. And the Supreme Court found that the overall aims were legitimate and benign, but there were some concerns about the right to privacy. So the Scottish Government sought to address those concerns and find ways to manage this issue. And they set up a practice development panel that was asked to develop information sharing code of practice for children, families and people who work with and support them. But the practice development panel found that there was challenges to producing something that would be both legally watertight and easily understood. And they took the view that there had been changes to the data protection law since the Supreme Court ruling, and that those, combined with refreshed guidance, would provide helpful safeguards around privacy. So in 2019, the Deputy First Minister informed the Scottish Parliament that the Scottish Government would no longer be pursuing the legislation to underpin named person and child's plan, but instead would work with partners to build on current good practice within existing legislation, and would develop new policy and practice guidance to provide confidence, clarity and practical support to deliver GIRFEC, underpinned by necessary, relevant and proportionate information sharing. So the work to date has been that we had draft materials that had been worked on for a good period of time. These were shared with stakeholder groups, which were health, local authority and third sector, and that was in late 2019, early 2020. And then work paused in March 2020 due to the pandemic, and wasn't resumed until March 2021. And at that point, we formed 6 co-production working groups, and each working group had members from health, local authority and third sector bodies, and there was national organisations represented as well, such as Police Scotland. And each of those co-production working groups focused on one part of the guidance. And then we shared those drafts, the draft materials, internally around Scottish Government for our policy colleagues to look at. So a lot of people will be really keen to understand what is changing with GIRFEC, with the refreshed materials. And the key thing that we really want to put across is that we're not asking people really to change the way that they are delivering GIRFEC. A lot of organisations, services, practitioners are already delivering GIRFEC and delivering it really well within the existing legislation. And we're not asking really for people to change the way that they do GIRFEC. It's about bringing it up to date and providing guidance that reflects the current situation and reflects the DFM, the Deputy First Minister's announcement in September of 2019. So on the whole, the approach remains the same, but the guidance will reflect, for example, the incorporation of the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child and the promise. So that's that takes forward the work that's demanded by the findings of the independent care review, also learning from the pandemic and recovery, and is linking in with related current developments such as the revised National Child Protection Guidance and staying together and connected, getting it right for sisters and brothers. But what we have done is we've refreshed the values and principles, and we'll be, if there's feedback from the consultation that maybe we haven't quite got the refreshed values and principles correct, then the wording that I'm sharing on this slide, that could be subject to change. But we felt that the way that we described the values and principles previously didn't really capture sufficiently, didn't really put across with enough impact what we think GIRFEC is all about, and it got a little bit lost. So we've come up with something that we think expresses it more neatly, but it's still all about placing the child, the young person and the family at the centre, promoting choice and participation of children, young people and families in decision making. It's still absolutely about working in partnership with families to enable rights respecting, strengths-based, inclusive approach. all about understanding well-being as holistic and interconnected, and understanding the child and young person's experiences within the wider context of their family, community and society. Of course, it's still all about valuing diversity and ensuring non-discrimination and equitably tackling multiple and intersecting forms of inequality. And still key is shifting resources and support towards providing an early offer of support to improve outcomes for children, young people and families. And joint working and a culture of cooperation and communication between practitioners and services locally and nationally is still absolutely central to the approach. So in terms of what the suite of materials will look like that we're consulting on, we have the GIRFEC Policy Statement, the statutory guidance on the assessment of wellbeing, and practice guidance on the role of the named person, the role of the lead professional, and using the national practice model, and information sharing. And there's an information sharing charter for agencies and organisations to share with children and families. So thinking about the public consultation, so the assessment of wellbeing guidance is going to be subject to public consultation because this guidance is statutory and it's called for within the Children and Young People's Act 2014 that Scottish Government produced statutory guidance. So that consultation will be accessed via Citizen Space, and anyone can access that. Citizen Space is a platform that Scottish Government uses for consultations. It will be launching in autumn 2021. It will last 12 weeks, and there will be easy read versions, and there will be British Sign Language videos of all the materials. And the responses will be published within 4 weeks, which is standard for Scottish Government consultations. There will be independent analysis of the consultation responses, but the timescale for sharing that will depend on the volume of responses. The questions for that are really focused on how clear and easy to understand the guidance is, with a couple of open questions for people to provide feedback on. We're also, alongside that, there will be a stakeholder focused consultation. That's on all the other materials. Now, those materials are not statutory, and also they have been developed with practitioners. There's been a lot of co-production work has gone into this, and they're for the benefit of practitioners. So we felt that really focusing on stakeholders was more appropriate for these. So to identify which stakeholders would be invited to participate, we asked all of our stakeholder groups, which is quite a large group, to nominate stakeholders. And as a result of that, excuse me, invitations to participate will be sent to all local authorities and health boards, as well as more than 20 third sector organisations or umbrella groups for third sector, and more than 30 national organisations. And those stakeholders, they can share the materials with their networks, but we're asking for them to feed back to us just those organisations that have been invited to participate, just to enable us to actually manage the response that we get. But we would expect that, you know, if a stakeholder is invited to participate, that they can share that with their networks, and their response is informed by that engagement with their networks. That will also be launching in autumn 21. It will be 6 weeks, and again there will be easy read versions, and there'll be British Sign Language videos of all the materials. Similarly, the questions are focused on making sure that those documents are really clear and easy to understand, with open questions for each document. And there will be some virtual engagement sessions that those stakeholders that are invited to participate will also be offered invitations to those. We're really keen to do some engagement with children, young people and families, and this is something that we really need to work on. But one thing we do know is that the Scottish Government itself is not best placed to do that engagement. That there are organisations that have an existing relationship with children, young people and families, and they will come up with ways to get engagement with children, young people and families that's a lot more rewarding for those participants than if we were to come up with something ourselves. So we've made some funding available to stakeholders to support them to organise engagement opportunities for children and young people, because we think that those organisations will do a much better job of it than we would. So that will be focused on the refreshed values and principles, because we want to make sure that what we've expressed there really communicates what's most important for children and young people. We're also asking about the information sharing charter, and we want to make sure that it's understandable and it's answering the questions and concerns that children and young people and families have about information sharing. That concludes my what I have to say on the subject of the GIRFEC consultation. I hope that's been helpful. I hope that's answered people's questions.
Thank you very much, Sarah. And as viewers will have noticed, if anyone wants to get in touch in relation to what Sarah has shared with us today, please email the contact that is on the final slide of today's presentation. Is that okay, Sarah?
That's fine, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.